We're pleased to welcome Anthony Obi this morning. Anthony, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thanks. It's another beautiful day in Aggie Land. I see, so your background, you've been a little bit of everywhere. I see that you graduated summa cum laude from the University of Houston with a bachelor's in economics, some impressive minors, global business, and energy and sustainability. What was the motivation that brought you to the MBA program at Mays? I want to hear a little bit about your background first.
Okay, so since I graduated with a major in economics, I just felt like I needed to, top off my my degree. I needed something more than bachelor's in economics. And most economic students are always encouraged to seek a higher degree, either get a PhD in economics or get an MBA. So I decided an MBA is the right path for me. And I always dreamed of coming to Texas A&M. I thought I should have transferred after my sophomore year at University of Houston, but I'm a first generation university graduate. I didn't have anybody to advise me on how to transfer to other schools. So I was finished in Houston. So I figured that for my MBA, I still have the opportunity to become an Aggie, and I'm happy to be here.
So you said that you had always dreamed of coming to Texas A&M. What was it that appealed to you about the university?
So when I was at the University of Houston, I always heard about, Texas A&M. I saw the football when Johnny Manziel was Heisman Trophy winner. I saw all that. And also I saw a lot of Aggie in Houston. A lot of Aggies were successful. They were business owners, managers, directors in Houston area. So just interacting with people, I found out okay, this university has all the network in Houston. So I just figured one day I really want to come here and, get my education.
It's a great place to be. I'm happy that you wanted to be here. I wanted to be here as well. But let's zoom out for a minute and talk a little bit more about you personally. So we ask this icebreaker question of all of our guests. What is your favorite superpower?
I think my favorite superpower is smile.
Oh, okay. The power of the smile, power of positivity. So tell me a little bit more about that. That's an unusual answer.
Yeah, I think growing up, I didn't watch a lot of comics because I wasn't exposed to comics. So I think for me, my superpower is smile. I always try to stay positive, no matter whatever the circumstance. I always look out for the positive outcome. I always see a light at the end of the tunnel. Coming from my background, there was a lot of, there wasn't a lot of, a lot of things to cheer about, but you can't stay on the ground forever. You have to look out for the positive stuff. So I've been able to, find positivity in everything I do, even when I'm down, feeling sad. I always try to smile. That way I've been able to make friends everywhere. For my undergraduate, I remember my classmates, people just randomly liking me because I smile a lot, and I just made friends. I made so many friends just because I'm so positive,
Mm-hmm. Now you said there wasn't a lot to cheer about. So let's talk a little bit more about that. So growing up, how was your childhood different from someone's who grew up in the U.S.?
I think the first thing about my childhood, first thing would be technology. So I didn't have access to technology like we have my peers here. So I got my first computer when I came here in the US in 2011. So I never used a computer before until 2011. So I never had access to that. I had to learn Excel here in the US, Excel, Microsoft Word. I've never used those things before. So it was kind of tricky when I came to school and I was supposed to write an essay, but my professor didn't know that I've never used something like that before. Mm-hmm. And I think another thing about my childhood is here in the US, there's always 24-hour electricity. Where I come from, sometimes we went for a year without seeing electricity. So that was pretty tough. also we had issues like, third world countries, issues with security, water, healthcare, just like every other third world country. So those things we are missing.
So being exposed to those things now on a regular basis, what are the creature comforts that you appreciate the most? What's the thing that always lights you up every time you go back to it?
I think I just appreciate, like being here, having the opportunity to, come to the US and experience all the good things. I think some people, like, I know it's different for people that were born in the US. They take everything for granted. I see people, complaining about this, but I've seen a year without electricity.
Mm-hmm.
I've walked like 3 miles to go to school, but people complain about walking up the stairs. So I appreciate every letter I can get. My professors being supportive. Growing up in the Nigerian school system, actually your teachers can spank you. We call it flogging. So that's like something different from here.
How do you think an experience like that, and you don't have to say whether you ever got licks or not, but knowing that was part of the disciplinary system, there's a lot of publicity about about corporal punishment, that kind of thing now. Do you have any thoughts on that? In America, we handle our kids very differently now than we did than we did when I was growing up, and so I don't really necessarily have an opinion on whether it's good or bad. I think most of the research shows that the way we're doing it now is better. But on the other hand, we do see a lot of badly behaved kids out there now. I don't want to venture into speaking with authority on subjects where I'm not an authority, but do you have anything to add to that discussion?
I think what I would add is, I think the way them bringing up now is, I think it's a lot better. I thought you could achieve more with a kid with more advising than less spanking and less corporal punishment. Mm-hmm. So I thought I learned a lot from just hearing a word of advice from my teachers and my parents than whenever I was spanked for doing something wrong. So overall, I think just talking to kids or talking to younger ones, mm-hmm. I think that's better than corporal punishment overall.
Yeah. What influenced your decision, your family's decision to come to the US?
So after I finished my we call it secondary school, but just high school. So I always dreamed of coming to going abroad to study. Mm-hmm. So the choice was between going to UK or coming to the US. Mm-hmm. So my dad, he's been to the UK before. He went there to visit sometimes. So he was like, he doesn't want us to go to the UK. So he felt like there was more opportunity in the US. My dad was always, he's a big fan of the American system. He loves American government. He watches a lot of CNN, American news. So he felt like there was more opportunity for his kids in the US. So he said I should go to the US, and that's how I came to the US. I didn't know much about US before that.
That's fascinating. I obviously I love the United States. Did he have a bad experience in the UK, or just he thinks the American system is better overall?
I think he thinks. I think for him, he thinks that there is more opportunity to become successful in the US compared to the UK. And
so a lot of your family is still in Africa then?
Yes, like 90%.
Okay. So let's go back to the MBA program. So you're here now, you're a first year student. What have you discovered about yourself so far in the MBA program?
I think one of the things I've discovered about myself is that I can actually I have more perseverance than I thought I had. I've been able to stay up like 24 hours studying for exams. I never thought I could do that before. I've been able to work in teams, people from different backgrounds, just being able to communicate I found out like I have better communication skill than I thought I had before. Being able to meet people, make presentations better than I thought I had before. So it's been like a new experience to me.
The team experience was a very positive thing for me in my time in the MBA program. Tell us a little bit about your team.
So my members of my team, I have Corbin King, Peter Potty, Mark Boudreau, and Bang. My team is awesome. I think this is the best team ever. Yeah, my team, they are really, really, really helpful. Really, really helpful in terms of if there's any homework or assignment that, we have a lot of teamwork to be done. So my team is, in terms of communication, like we have perfect communication. And even if one of us is struggling, we always, find a way to help each other, uplift each other. So I think it's been really positive outcome and experience for me so far.
I wouldn't be surprised. I feel a lot of positivity coming off of you, and you've said that it's a big part of your life. So that's good. What do you think has been most transformative? Like, what has changed the most for you in your time here? You talked a little bit about your experiences with technology, but in terms of personal change or inner change, what do you think has been the biggest evolution that you've made as a person and as a student in your time, so far, your brief time here?
I think the most transformative thing for me has been, being able to take personal responsibility for myself. I think growing up, I had this victim mentality. Mostly, I had my mom do most of the things for me, Mm-hmm. So, and then coming to the US was a big change for me. That was the first time I left home. I never left Africa before, never. So I came to the US. I was alone. No mom, no dad. I had to figure out everything on my own. So I took a class in freshman year of college. The first class I ever took was something about how to, freshman class, how to get ready for college. So something like that class had a big impact in my life going forward, because in the class I learned about something about thinking as a victor and thinking as a victim. So the class told you, you should think more as a victor. You should take personal responsibility, even if things are going bad. Try to take responsibility for your actions and try to find a way to move forward, from setbacks, instead of being, thinking like a victim and, blaming everybody else for your problems. So I think that has been really helpful for me.
I think one of the most important attributes that we can develop toward becoming successful is an internal locus of control, and believing that you are in control of your own destiny. And obviously we've talked on previous episodes about things that might not be within our control, but it's interesting because this actually kind of ties back to what you were telling me about what your dad said, which is that in the United States, you have more opportunity to become successful. I think the perception of an internal locus of control is probably more true here, or at least as true here as it is anywhere in the world. And probably that is more the case. The idea that you are sort of in control of your own professional destiny is probably more true here than it is elsewhere. So in addition to your cohort team, you've also been working with a NBIMBA case competition team. And for our listeners, that stands for the National Black Masters of Business Administration Association. A little bit of a tongue twister there. So can you tell me a little bit about the case competition and tell our listeners a little bit about it?
So the case competition is about Fiat Chrysler. So we are doing a research on Fiat Chrysler about the services and auto parts called Mopar. And we are supposed to make recommendations on how to position Mopar going forward in the future in order to maintain its growth and profitability to Fiat Chrysler. So with challenges we're facing is we have a term called shared economy. Shared economy is in the future, we are going to have people are going to buy less cars and people are going to use more ride sharing like Uber and Lyft. And so that poses a big threat to, a car manufacturer like Ford Chrysler. And also we have something about, electric cars. Electric cars are going to be more superior in terms of durability. So you're going to have less time going to the mechanic to get your car fixed. So that means, people are going to buy less cars either way. So, so the question is, how do you position Fiat Chrysler and Mopar going forward? So my team has been able to, we've been solid in our presentation and recommendation so far.
That's great. And you have a lot of experience working with clubs and teams previously. So I'm gonna embarrass you for a second and read off a list of some of the organizations you've been a part of. You've worked with the National Society of Collegiate Scholars, Cougars on Campus at the University of Houston, the Catholic Student Organization, various intramural sports, and international orientation. And then as far as the companies you've worked with Facebook, Google, and Exelon. This is kind of a murderer's row of organizations and companies. So you also had some success on the soccer field at the University of Houston. Are you as competitive on the field as you are in business?
I don't think, I always think like competition as, I had like a negative connotation to the word competition. I always think sometimes it's like unhealthy. So, but I love, like, one thing about me, I like to win, I like to win, but even if I don't win, I still accept the results. So I'm not like, trying to crush anyone in order to win, but I still love to win.
I think that's a healthy approach. I've done some sports stuff myself, and in the end, I think the most healthy approach to sports is, you want to win, but you're really mostly competing against yourself, because there's always going to be somebody better than you. There are 7 billion people in the world now, or whatever the number is, and somebody out there is going to be better, unless you're Usain Bolt.
That's true.
But you can compete against yourself, and you can compete against the person next to you. You can compete against the person next to you as well. But if that person does well, if they beat you, you can still be happy for them as well.
Yes.
There's a way to get positivity out of almost every aspect of competition if you're doing it right, I think. I don't want to get off on this, but I don't love the direction that the NFL is going with touchdown celebrations now. I'm not sure how familiar you are with that, but I don't think that that's necessarily a good thing. I don't think it promotes healthy competition. But we can talk about that some other time.
Okay.
So what I understand is you like helping people. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I do. I do love helping people.
You tutored some very tough subjects for over a year at the University of Houston, and now you're volunteering to help veterans through the nonprofit Combined Arms. What have you learned from, well, first of all, tell us a little bit about what that is, what the organization does.
So Combined Arms is, Combined Arm helps veterans in every aspect, be it, veterans transitioning to civilian life, helping them, brush up their resume, have mock interviews. Also, they help veterans with like financial support, something short term, get you back on your feet if you're struggling. So just, having advice to veterans everywhere. So it's been a really positive organization to be part of.
That's great. And so then so what inspired you to join the Army?
I think I just love, like after the 9/11 happened, I was back home in Nigeria. I was still out. I was watching CNN. So I followed most of, the war, American war in Iraq and Afghanistan. So you just, seeing how the troops were, the discipline, how they were maneuvering the landscape. I just thought that was really cool. So whenever I came to the US, in my sophomore year, I tried to join the Army. I used to see ROTC cadets on my campus. I saw them train. I like the discipline they showed in their training. So I figured, I wanted to be part of this organization. So I approached the ROTC office, but they turned me down. They said I'm not a U.S. citizen or U.S. permanent resident, so I couldn't join them. So I had to wait until my final year in college. I met a recruiter, and he told me, now the Army has like a program where internationals with special skills can join the Army. So I was like, okay, sign me up. Mm-hmm. So it's been a marvelous experience so far.
And you're a CBRN specialist, chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear. So what does that position entail?
So the position mostly entails with like it sounds, chemical, nuclear, biological, and radiological materials. So if there's any kind of chemical attack or nuclear attack on the US, I'll be the first responder. So I have all the training skill set to intervene. If there is a situation of a nuclear disaster, in case of a chemical disaster, a nuclear meltdown, chemical meltdown. So I have the skill set to intervene, and mostly involves, saving people. The first thing you have to do is, get people out of the area. Mm-hmm. And another aspect of the, we call it seaborne in the Army. Another aspect of it is being able to contain the environment, so the contamination does not spread. Just limit the casualty, keep the casualty localized.
Mm-hmm. You've mentioned CNN a couple of times. You mentioned that you followed the American War on CNN. You mentioned that your dad watched a lot of CNN when you were growing up. What do you think is the biggest impact that following a foreign news company has? It seems like it's given you a very cosmopolitan perspective on things. But what else would you say about how that perspective, coming from a world that's very different from the one you, by your own declaration, the one you were living in growing up, how do you think that made you different from someone else that you might have grown up with?
So I think, watching those news, actually, I saw some enlightenment in it. Mm-hmm. I saw okay, this is what goes on in America. This is how they think. This is how they position themselves going forward, how to become successful. So I learned a lot about America watching news. I didn't watch a lot of movies or comics growing up. So my dad always watched news. Mm-hmm. And whenever he's watching news, I always, stay by his side and watch news with him. So I'm really as a small kid, I was really good with current affairs. Every time there's a quiz on what's going on around the world, I used to ace all those questions. I used to win all the prizes for current affairs. I knew a lot about American political system. So back in Nigeria, they would ask you who is the president of the US, who is the Secretary of State of the US. So mm-hmm. I knew all these questions. I knew the answers to these questions, but my peers didn't know it.
Did they admire that about you, or did that set you apart in a way? Obviously, you were living life the best way that you knew how. You were living the life that you wanted to live. How did your friends react to that?
I think everybody was, like I said, they looked up to me in terms of current affairs, because mm-hmm. I knew so much about current affairs. I knew so much about sports. I love reading the news. Mm-hmm. So people would, come up to me and ask, hey, how do I become better in current, knowing what's going on in the world, become more familiar with current affairs. And I just told them, every day, just read the newspaper, read as much news as you can.
Do you ever feel like there was a time that created distance between you and your peers, that there was some way in which they didn't understand you? I think a lot about solitude and in our place in the world. And, some of my favorite writers, Rilke and others, talk a lot about the state of solitude and distance between us and other people. do you think that because you grew up in a way that was different from a lot of your peers, that you were more, maybe alone is too grand a word to use, but that you had difficulty in ways that others of your peers might not have? Were there any problems that you feel like you faced from sort of glomming on to this outside worldview? This question's getting pretty meta, but do you understand what I'm asking?
Yes. So I think for the most part, it didn't happen. Like I get along with everybody. Sometimes, I felt like sometimes whenever I talk, it sounded like condescending to others because they didn't know what I was talking about. So there was like a break in the communication.
Sure.
So sometimes the communication failed because I would be talking about foreign news, like how where the world is moving going forward, because America drives the world. American policy drives like the rest of the world. So, and I'll be talking about it, and my peers are talking about maybe something about like local entertainment. So it doesn't, doesn't get along. Sometimes normally I like to have like an educative debate on current affairs, and most of my peers, they are not inclined to having that debate, so
right.
So there's always I learned how to not debate people anymore.
No, I understand where you're coming from, because that's my jam. Like, let's talk about, even as a child, I wanted to talk about big ideas and talk about science and talk about world events and sports and things like that. And sports, I guess I could relate to my peers in that way. But in terms of science and evolutionary biology and so forth, I had some social challenges when I was younger, especially when I was very young. But I do think that your approach is the right one. You want to think about big stuff, even as a kid. Like, I think it's really good for us to encourage people to think about things and to think about educating themselves. Our executive producer, Dr. Shannon Deere, has shared a little bit of your message about educating women in Africa, starting with a case on Mercy Project. Shout out to Chris and Stacy Field. Can you tell us a little bit more about that message?
So my message for educating women in Africa is actually a positive message. The breakdown of the message is educating women. It does several things for us. The first thing is women with education, they have, like, when I say delayed marriage, instead of getting married at 18, now they're getting married at 25. So by that, they are more likely to have less children. So having less children means having, more resources for the small amount of children you have. Mm-hmm. So like educated women are more likely to have less children in experience. And also having educated women, now you have breadwinners too. The women can have, careers, they can become teachers, nurses, doctors, lawyers. So now it's not just the husband, bringing food to the table. Now, the woman can also bring her own part. And one of the big issues we have in Africa is widows. So whenever the husband is the breadwinner, so whenever he dies, the family becomes mostly in severe poverty. So having an educated woman, even if the husband is no longer in the picture, the woman can still take care of her own children. And also, one thing about having educated women is education brings enlightenment. So these women are more likely to have healthier kids, healthier family. They are more likely to know about nutrition, family planning. So overall, they have a healthier kids, healthier family, healthier career.
Was there, and the answer to this question may be no, but was there any particular method that you were suggesting for educating women, or educating women in particular?
I think the method I would say is just having more enrollment of women, encouraging women to get enrolled, like young girls, mm-hmm. getting them interested in STEM, more like science subjects.
Just more in the marketing than anything else. That makes sense. So let's move to some rapid fire questions. The first one: what do you consider your most valuable failure?
I think my most valuable failure was I failed my physical exercise test in the Army. At basic training, the final one, and that was, if you fail, that means you don't graduate with your peers. That was a big learning experience for me because I wasn't pushing myself so hard as I should have. I failed the test by one sit up.
Oh,
so that was really brutal because I thought I had more than, I was just settling for the minimum. So what I learned was, never settle for the minimum. Keep pushing yourself. You can always do better. Never settle for the minimum.
So what was, if you don't mind my asking, what was the outcome of that? So getting away from the rapid fire for a moment, what happened after that? Did you have to go back and then take the test again later and then graduate afterwards?
Yeah. So the Army, they scared me a little bit. They said, okay, you're not going to graduate. They give me a phone or call your parents and tell them you're not graduating with your peers. And then after that, they called us and we were like, okay, you're going to retake the PT test.
Okay.
And then I didn't, like the second time, I had a second chance. So, I didn't take it lightly. So I went in, I kept pushing, and then and I came out successful.
How many more sit-ups did you get the second time?
I did 10 more than required.
Nice. What do you think is people's biggest misconception of you?
I think biggest misconception about me would be maybe I'm a little bit when I say cocky.
Oh.
Yeah, but I'm actually really humble. I joke a lot. Sometimes it comes off, the right, people take it the wrong way. So, but overall, I'm just a happy person, just trying to, create a positive environment.
Do you think you present differently to larger groups than you do one-on-one? I know, in one-on-one conversations, so myself, for example, I'm very eager to engage very quickly. And I probably sometimes come off as a little intense just because I want to get right into like the meat of what makes the other person what they are. But in bigger groups, I tend to lay back a lot more. So for you, do you think that there's anything different about how you come off in those types of situations versus here?
So I think I'm the same way as you. In one-on-one conversations, I like to, express myself and, just get into the conversation, when I say more, maybe like more intense level, but, in a larger group, I like to, just, take a step back and observe. I like to observe just basically like situation awareness, assess the context of the gathering, or the context of the large group, see how do you fit in? How does my communication and my suggestion fit into the larger group? So I adapt to whatever environment that I see myself in.
Mm-hmm. Seems like a good approach. So if you could have anyone as a mentor for one day, who would it be?
I would say Dr. Shetty.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he's really really helpful, really knowledgeable about what he does. He's always willing to help out students, in their struggling materials. So I'll be happy to have him as a mentor.
Was there one particular experience that sort of illuminated all of that for you?
I think it's been several experiences. So Dr. Shetty has really late help sessions for his students that
Mm-hmm.
are people that are interested in, knowing more about statistics. So
Mm-hmm.
I've attended all his help sessions. So I think that has, improved my test scores, improved my understanding of statistics on how to use the solver, run regressions. I'm familiar with regressions, but, having someone dig deeper into regressions, explaining all the variables, I think that's really, really helpful.
Excellent. What is your fondest memory so far of something that's happened here at Texas A&M?
I think my fondest memory so far has been with the veteran office. So I went to the veteran office, and they were able to buy all the textbooks that I needed for my classes. So I think that has been really a great experience and a joyful moment for me. Seeing I didn't have to spend like $500 on textbooks.
You felt like you were well taken care of.
Yes.
That's good. That's good. So on a related note, so we usually end each session with some good bull. This is an opportunity for our listeners. This is an opportunity to recognize someone else for something good or great that they have done. So do you have any good bull for anyone today?
Yes. I'll have good bull for my team member in my MBA group, Corbin King. Corbin has been really, really helpful. I would say Corbin has like exceptional analytical skills. Mm-hmm. So whenever I have like problem with statistics and finance, we always go up to Corbin. Sometimes I think he has special powers with numbers. So, so he's always, always willing to help, even though he has a wife and kid, but he's always available to help anytime. And so that has been really great.
Has he said anything about how he balances family time along with the significant commitments of being a first-year MBA student? Has he talked about that at all?
I mean, he's always like laid back. He's always calm. He has like this calm effect with him. So he doesn't seem to stress, so much. I don't know how he does it, but he's been a great when I say something like someone to look, emulate, how he handles things.
Well, I really appreciate your positivity, and I appreciate you taking the time to appear on the podcast with us.
All right, thank you so much.
Everyone have a great day, and thanks for listening. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to stay up to date on our latest videos, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell icon to receive notifications. If you're in a rush or on the road, you can still join us on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. If you want to learn more about us or our guests, please visit our website at mays.tamu.edu/podcasts. Also, please check out Mays Business School's academic programs. They're the sponsors of our show, and you can find them in the description. Thanks, and gig 'em.